right, everybody. We got Loren Israel here, and he has worked with crazy amount of artists who I really love and admire. So I'm really stoked to talk to you, Loren. You're a veteran music industry exec, record producer, A&R, songwriting teacher, and now you're doing music consulting as well. And you have a whole bunch of services to do with that. You've worked with, like I said, Jimmy Eat World, Plain White Tees, Neon Trees, Less Than Jake. So a lot to talk about, and I'm really excited to hear that story because I'm a big fan of a lot of those artists, like I said. But before we do that, why don't you take us all the way back and just tell us how Loren got into music to begin with?
Well, thank you, Sean. And by the way, I had a #1 song last year by a band called The Unlikely Candidates that I executive produced called Novocaine, and that's a great song, and everyone should check it out.
Yes.
You know, I was very young, and the guys in the neighborhood, we were, punk rockers and skateboarders and surfers here in Southern California, and we were getting into trouble and decided to all pick up instruments and have literally like a neighborhood band. And frankly, that neighborhood band became something I actually did seriously, and ultimately got a record deal and a publishing deal, when I was about 22 or so. I then thought that that wasn't the right thing for me to do. The lead singer of the band was involved in all sorts of crazy stuff, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I went back to school. I put myself through school, paid for everything. I had 3 jobs. I was teaching surfing in the summer. I worked at a surf shop, and I bartended. I was bartending an after-hours roller disco.
Nice.
Suffice it to say, when I was at that age, I was just trying to find me, and going back to school and having to pay for it myself, I found out that I was spending much more time going to clubs, seeing literally 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week. And a lot of people knew that my band had a big draw in LA. So they'd constantly ask me, hey, can you help me with this show? I did numerous charity events, put on a whole bunch of, all sorts of things. And so I was kind of like a scene cookie, what they call a club cookie or a scene stir or whatever. I was just going out, and I would have nightmares when I would go into like a physics class, and I knew that I had to take a test, and it was really awful. It was really awful. My college experience, looking back on it, was really awful because I spent so much time still immersed in music. I couldn't shake it, man. I couldn't shake it.
Right.
So finally, one of these guys, these A&R guys, saw me out and said, hey, have you seen any cool bands? And I said, yeah, I saw a couple cool bands. And those bands ultimately became super, super huge. So now this guy is constantly in my grill, calling me. And I was naive, dude. I'm like a poor kid, works at a surf shop, trying to figure out. I didn't know. Like, I had no idea. And so I said, yo, what do you do? What's the day in the life of an A&R guy?
Uh-huh.
And he said, I wake up at 11, go into work. I listen to music. I answer mail. I send mail. I go into meetings. I listen to music. I send mail. I listen to music. I go into meetings. I go home at about 7, and then I go out and see bands at night. And I'm like, yo, that is what I want to do.
Yes.
And I'm like, literally. It took me about 9 months to convince this guy that I will work for free. And frankly, I should have known then what that meant. Like, why doesn't he want me to work for him for free? So I spent 3 years as an intern at Capitol Records. Not 8 months, not 6 months, not a year, not 2 years, but 3 years.
Wow.
3 years.
Yeah.
And when I started doing an internship, I started saying, okay, if I'm going to do this A&R, artist and repertoire, artist being the voice, repertoire being the song, I must be able to articulate what that means when I confront an artist or when I'm conversing with an artist. So I started producing. My first producing client was a young lady by the name of Pippi Bernstein. I'm still in touch with her. She's awesome. I found her at a club called the Cobalt Cafe. I said, listen, if you let me produce 4 of your songs, I will put it out on my label. Now, I didn't have a label at the time. If you don't like it, I'll give you the tapes and you can burn it. Like, no problem. So eventually I put out her music on Lifelong Life. It was a yellow 7-inch. And dude, this was, I hate dating myself, bro. This was well over 25 years ago.
Sure. It's crazy how the 90s is that far away nowadays.
It's really bizarre, right?
Yeah.
And she ultimately got a record deal and a publishing deal and a manager and all that sort of stuff. And so I didn't stop, Sean. I just never stopped developing emerging talent. Through all of my success and all of my failures, I still have not stopped producing, developing, mentoring, managing emerging talent to help them get to a place of success.
What I love about what you are saying, and I think some people would be divided about this, but I feel like you were just like, this is what I'm going to do. And if it takes 3 years at a internship, 3 years, that's almost a college degree. That's almost a full high school career. If you're speedy, maybe it is your entire, high school or college experience, but you were gaining real world experience at one of the biggest record labels in the world, smack dab in the middle of Hollywood. And obviously it was the right path for you because of all the artists you went on to work with. I love that this A&R guy kind of picked up on the fact that you were a tastemaker, though, because he's like, hey, this guy pointed me in the right direction.
I do the same thing now. I find kids who are in bands, who are promoters, who are total super fans. I do the same thing, too. I help them. They help me. And listen, not only have I, and again, I'm not trying to brag, okay? That's not what I'm really good at. But through this process, not only have I shepherded bands, but Grammy-winning producers. Ariel Rekshide, who does Adele, Madonna, Haim, he was in a band called the Hippos. I produced them. I developed them and got them a record deal. Tim Pagnotta, he was in a band called Sugar Cult. He did the first 2 songs, the first hits of Neon Trees before he produced anything.
Yeah.
Ian Kirkpatrick, another artist who I shepherded and I put together with the Plain White Tees. And the list, there are a few other people on that list. The point I'm trying to make is, now I'm not much of a producer as much as I'm an evangelist, dude. Okay?
All right.
I do not believe the mysterious music should be that mysterious. There are too many people that do not know what a hit song really is. They do not know, A, what it is. They've never really listened to one in an intellectual fashion. I mean, I went to college, so maybe I'm more intellectual than the guy next to me, but that's not the point. I'm talking about, I'm evangelizing that you can do it if you stick with it, if you learn first what a hit song really is. And let me say this, a hit song on the radio, that's cool. A hit song on Spotify, cool. A hit song on SoundCloud, Audius, anywhere, right? It's like you gotta know the platform and know the rules. There are certain consistencies in all songs on all platforms. And if you're not intelligent enough to actually do a little bit of homework, you're going to fail. Furthermore, you may succeed once, but like a broken clock, it's right twice a day, and you'll never repeat it, which is why my bands always repeat it, because they know what I like to call, Loren Israel 101. So I try to tell artists, you got to stick in there. Like, you talked about it, and I appreciate you understanding of, that I took 3 years being an intern. That was pretty fucked up. I stuck with it,
Yeah.
And I
when you said it was kind of a red flag or I should have known, then what did you mean when you said, hey, why did it take so long for him to accept you working for him for free? Was it because it was such a was it just because everyone's asking him, or was it because he knew how rough it'd be for you, or what was it? What did you mean by that?
Sean, that's a great question. And I'm gonna answer this with another funny anecdote.
Okay.
So when we did Bleed American with Jimmy Eat World, Jim and Zach called me.
I love that record, by the way. It's such a great record.
Thank you. They called me on the phone, and Zach said, yo, what do we do? I said, dude, radio is begging for you to send them a song they can play. And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, just trust me. They're so excited about you giving them a song they can play. But until such time, you're not going to do it. I said, we must make a record on our own. Okay, blah, 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 blah. We made the record on our own. I was at Capitol as an A&R consultant. I walked in to the senior VP's office and I said, I've got this song. You need to listen to it. They're still on cap. This is before we made the record, okay? So hear me out. I played him a song and he goes, get out of my room, get out of my office. It's not a good song. I said, yo, I'm telling you, it's a really good song. We should really take this seriously. Get out of here. Okay, we made the record. They got dropped from Capitol even after I was.
That's how you know you've been in the business. You got some kids running around.
5-year-old, like yeah. COVID, right?
Yeah.
So after they got dropped, we made the record. After they made the record, this is no joke. The same guy who said F you to the song said he wants me to help him re-sign the band back to Capitol. That's not a joke. It's not a lie.
Wow.
Okay. Secondly, I called Zach and he got furious and hung up on me. Okay. So after they got, the big record deal, they're on the radio. There's a new president at Capitol. His name is Andy Slater. And he came up to me and he said, yo, you're pretty smart. I like you. I want to hire you for a real job. I said, great. He then goes, I need you to talk to the GM to negotiate. I said, okay. This is a true story, Sean. The GM looked at me. This is a fucking true story. And he goes, you didn't work on that Jimmy Eat World record. And Sean, I have to tell you, my heart sank to my stomach. I got sick. I went to Amoeba Records and I bought 4 Bleed American records. Again,
Mm.
it's bleed. We all of us call it Bleed American, but you know it's not called Bleed American for the obvious reason. Blah blah blah. I go into his office. He wasn't there. I asked his assistant, "Hey, can I drop off these things to person X, who I'm not going to name?"
Mm-hmm.
And it says A&R, Loren Israel, and I circle it in black marker.
On the record, nice.
So I tell people I have a great business partner in our production company,
Mm.
and I said the only respect we get, me and people who do emerging talent, and there are very, very few of us, very, very few of us, because it's a lonely, tough, barren road, is the only respect you get is in your bank account and maybe credit. So the only reason to do it is if you love it and you want to be excellent. So getting back to why I didn't remember, the guy didn't want to give me the fucking credit.
Yeah. Okay. That was the red flag. Got it. And that's actually what I initially thought. I was like, he doesn't want you to be his competition as much as his kind of person who whispers in his ears and gives him tips. Well, that's a great story, and I would say the same thing goes for musicians. You know, we talk about it all the time that if you want to be rich and famous, there are a lot easier ways to do it than to be a musician. So you better love it, because you should be doing it for the sake of the music rather than the fame or the money, because there's easier ways to do it.
100%.
And what you were saying, it's and someone could hear what you were talking about as far as doing your homework. I think there are some people who might think of that as find a pessimistic viewpoint of that opinion, but really it's just research. It's knowing your craft. And I actually spoke with someone told me a great story, and so I won't say the name of the band because I'll let them tell the story on a different podcast. But he said that this rock band, the front man studied a whole bunch of #1 hits, and he studied the chord progressions, and he's like, you know what, I'm on this next record, I'm going to do like 2 songs that follow this kind of formula that I've found, and both of those songs went to like #1 on the rock charts. And then he's like, on the next record, I'm going to do it for maybe 5 songs or something, and supposedly all 5 of those songs on that record went to like #1 on the rock or alternative charts or something like that. So it's a huge band, and when I heard that, I was like, it's so simple, but it's something that people just forget to do. It's like, look at what's been done and what works. And
well, let me interject. Nobody teaches them that they don't have to do that, right? I'm not trying to foist my creativity or my emotionality into creativity, essentially, on any artist, right? But if you say you want to be successful, you must understand and you must take responsibility for what that really is. Let me tell you something. If you're a lawyer, you've got to practice law. You've got to learn law from other people who are better than you. If you're a doctor, you've got to learn how to perform surgery by others who perform it. You essentially copy it. If you're a landscaper, the same thing. By the way, learning how to podcast and learning how to do the right broadcasts, you've got to look at other people and find out how they're doing it. Am I right or am I fucking wrong?
Exactly.
As a musician, right? When I learned how to play guitar, I got lessons. I learned to play guitar by the guy who was teaching me how to play guitar for 10 minutes. None of us are born cool, and none of us are born to write hit songs, but I can teach you how to write a hit song.
Which brings, and that's a great segue, because not only have you, worked with these bands and helped develop these bands, but right now you're also doing music consulting services. So talk a little bit about what you've been doing. You're a songwriting teacher, you're doing producing and mixing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm like I said, I'm an evangelist for emerging artists who want to be successful. Email me, and we'll work.
Get to work.
It's not easy. It's not free. It's difficult, but it's not impossible.
And obviously, you rattled off some huge, alternative indie rock bands there. Jimmy Eat World, Plain White Tees, Neon Trees, Less Than Jake. But then, as you mentioned, just in 2020, last year, during a pandemic, Novocaine by the Unlikely Candidates was a big hit.
Number one song. And furthermore, all these bands came through the same program that I'm talking about. Now, again, I'm not everyone's cup of java, but what I'm trying to do is tell you, please find someone who can help you. Nobody goes to the Olympics alone. LeBron James needs a coach. I'm sorry, that's how it is. It's not easy, but you need someone to help you. And I'm here.
That's awesome. And it's great how because I didn't get to hear much about your experience as a band, but even early on, you had some pretty cool moments. When you were in your mid-20s or maybe younger, didn't you open for Bad Religion and Soul Asylum, two bands I love?
Well, I mean, not only did we open for Bad Religion, Soul Asylum, the Sugar Cubes, Dramarama. I'm missing a couple more. My band's toured with the Circle Jerks. Actually, I was very young. I was like 17 at the time. Hold on. Come on, Quentin. The best moment of my life is playing a tour. We toured to San Francisco in a van with the Circle Jerks. And again, I'm dating myself. For any of you Circle Jerks fans, the lineup was Chuck Biscuits on drums, Greg Hetson on guitar, Keith Morris on vocals, and Earl from Second Trust on bass. The most I'm getting chills. The most incredible lineup of the Circle Jerks ever. And we did a whole run from the bottom of California to the top of Seattle. And me being such a fanboy, it was mesmerizing. And as shitty as being dude, there were 8 dudes in a fucking van.
Yep.
8. Fuck off.
Oh man.
Fuck off. Okay. Another great story, and I'm sorry, I'm getting.
That's what the podcast is for.
Okay, we played with the Sugar Cubes, right?
Yeah.
And they were notoriously we toured with them, and they notoriously got into fights. It was Bjork.
Nice.
Do you remember? Okay.
I do.
Right. And her husband, again, I don't even know what the fuck the husband, they get into fights. So on stage, they get into a fight, and Bjork was literally on stage, kind of like going,
right.
And they didn't finish their line check.
Uh-huh.
Sean, for 10 minutes, Bjork was singing a cappella.
Oh my gosh. Just trying to ignore what's happening behind her, hoping it would stop.
They fucking left.
Wow.
They, fuck you, get out of here. The whole band left.
Good for her. That is a real the show must go on artist right there.
Well, I don't know. No. She was it wasn't that. It was like she was just dumbfounded, like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean,
it's funny you bring up Bjork. I literally just about a week and a half ago hiked Runyon with a friend of mine, and he's a funny guy, and him and his fiance decided to name their new puppy Bjork. So I was like,
I want to name my son Bjork, for the love of God, because it was unlike anything I've ever heard. It's unlike anything I've ever heard, because it was in Icelandic.
Bjork was huge back then. That's an interesting.
This was before she was huge.
I was gonna say
no one knew it was like.
Yeah, that's an because I was gonna say that's an interesting lineup. Some punk rockers with Bjork. So.
Well, at the time, it wasn't quite punk rock. It was a little different. But suffice it to say, you can take the rock out of the punk rocker. You can't take the punk rock out of the punk rocker.
Right. Well, Loren, it's awesome talking to you, because not only have you collaborated with so many artists, great artists who I've really admired over the years. You're just you just sound like, you know, one of my friends who I grew up with in Southern California. You know, you're a surfer. You were you know, teaching surfing. You're going to shows constantly. You're just like a music lover. You know.
So when I say evangelist, I kind of mean it.
Yeah.
And when I say this to you, Sean, I hope this resonates to you because you're sitting there. I see you've got a fancy little apartment. It's probably about $3,200, $3,300 a month. You probably have 2 or 3 jobs, but you sit here and you listen to me for an hour or 45 minutes or 30 minutes. Why? Because you've got the disease.
I definitely do. I 100% do. And this fancy little background right here is actually a hotel because I'm having some repairs done at the place right now. So I can't take credit for you know, this hotel back here, but yes, I tell people all the time I would be because besides the podcast, I'm in a band called the Eiffels, and I tell people all the time I would be doing music regardless of whatever else was going on in my life because I love it.
Because you may, so not to foist any of my shit on you, but you can't shake it. That's what I can't shake it. Like, I'm not good at anything other than music.
And sometimes you wish that you were into other things. You know,
100%.
it's like sometimes I wish I was into, and you know, maybe I wish I was into investing, something that or something like that. But then at other times I feel really blessed and grateful that I have a passion because I know a lot of people who don't, and they, you know, they experience life, I think, in a very different way.
I feel the same way.
So tell us, Loren, what's next? You've pretty much conquered, I would say, the land of alternative rock, indie rock, punk rock. You're still doing it, even in the midst of a pandemic, getting new bands to Billboard #1 hits. You know, alternative Billboard for Novocaine just last year. You're residing in West Hollywood, living the dream with your wife Chelsea and your now 5-year-old Quentin, who's made an appearance on this podcast a few times in the background. What is next for you, Loren?
You know, I'm working with great artists who I hope, you know, do the same.
There he is.
Quentin. Thank you. Who are hopefully get to do the same thing. I'm coming out with a complete musicians make millions and locking NFTs like in the next month. You said investing. I happen to be a crypto enthusiast and got in early with crypto, so you can understand how exciting that is for me. And NFTs are so important for emerging talent, and it's going to change the entire landscape of music. So I'm coming out with a simple book on here's step by step how to do NFTs for the Eiffels. So I'll send it to you once I get it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I've been a couple of friends have been texting me. I just saw on SNL they had a skit on Saturday about NFTs, and
it's so important and
it's
so
crazy,
early and so much fun. It's so much fun.
So I'll totally take you up on that. I'd love to learn more. I'm my fiance and I were just talking about it yesterday. I was trying to explain to her as far as what I know about NFTs. Basically, it's a uncopyable original format in digital format of a piece of art or a piece of music or whatever it may be. And things are selling for millions of dollars. It's crazy.
Think of it, Sean, as digital merchandise that can be scarce, collectible, and the sky's the limit.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, with regular digital file, who knows where the original is, but NFTs with blockchain technology and all that stuff, you know, you can actually you can tell where the source came from. So we're in the new realm now.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Anyway, dude, thank you very much for your patience with me and having me on your show. And I really appreciate it. It was a great deal. I had a great deal of fun.
Yeah, no patience needed, man. It was exciting hearing all your stories. It really, just like you've lived an incredible life so far. We like to end the podcast, Loren, by asking if you had one piece of advice for aspiring artists, and you would be the guy to go to, what would it be?
Don't give up.
Totally agree. I say it all the time. Just keep doing it. If you're doing it, you're doing it, and just keep doing it.
There you go.
Bringing it backward.